Welcome back to Iowa Live. Lou and Michelle here, along with a very special friend of ours.
That's right, helping us with our bottom line, Mr. Mike Jenkins, joining us here this morning. And you've got some great information this morning for people that are maybe a little fear when it comes to bankruptcy. Some of the top reasons that you feel or that you've experienced people not wanting to file.
Yeah, they're afraid to file bankruptcy.
That's very true. So I've really never spoken about this, I guess, in this way before. I just started thinking about it, and all these ideas started coming to me, and I said, I really need to talk about this. So many people are afraid to file bankruptcy, and so it's even difficult for them to get enough fortitude to come and see me.
Okay.
Not that coming to see me instantly means you filed bankruptcy. It's just coming to talk and find out what it's about and what you can do.
Now, what are some of the fears that people have, or what are some of the hang-ups people might have?
Well, some people have expressed to me that they feel it's immoral to file bankruptcy.
Immoral.
And I've not really understood immoral. It's a legal thing to do. It isn't against the law. It actually is a law that has been in existence for hundreds of years.
It's a law and it's a tool.
And it's a tool. Yeah. And so sometimes they go, my church says that we can't do bankruptcy.
Your church says?
That's what has been expressed to me.
Well, it's against your religion to file bankruptcy?
Well, that's what people have said.
Are these just excuses they're throwing out there, or maybe they misinterpret something?
Well, I don't know. I have clients that actually counsel with their pastor about what they should do.
Sure.
And, and sometimes their pastor goes, maybe you need to see a bankruptcy attorney, and we do get referrals sometimes in that way. Mm-hmm. But I'm certainly not a scholar in the Bible, but I've certainly never been aware of any passages that suggested that the filing of a bankruptcy would be some type of sin.
Okay. Now, in all your years of helping people with bankruptcies, have you ever filed bankruptcies for pastors or anything like that?
Yes, I mean, I filed bankruptcies for pastors and ministers.
Okay.
They're just like other folks. They're in a profession that is involved with religion, but unfortunately they aren't always immune from the same types of problems everybody else has with debts and such.
Okay.
And so yes, it's not uncommon, and we've filed for many folks in the religious community. So no, it's not immoral. Now, is it something people feel good about doing? Well, no, but it doesn't make it immoral. So no, it's not immoral. It's just something that people need to do to make themselves better.
Right.
And so I try to convince those people that no, it's okay, and you'll be all right. And so some of them we get convinced, and some of them we probably don't, and they don't come back.
Okay. What else are people afraid of?
Well, a real big deal is people will go, is this going to be in the newspaper? They're just deathly afraid of the fact that it'll be in the newspaper, and they shouldn't be. The Des Moines Register isn't doing so good these days. I just read an article how the readership is just on such a big decline. But even when it was at its peak, so yes, there was a time when the Des Moines Register would have the filings of bankruptcies in it.
Bankruptcy listings, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was when it was lots of pages, and there was a section called Work and Business and Money that came out on Mondays. I don't know if you remember back then.
Yes, I do.
And they would have the listings for drunk drivers and bankruptcies and divorces and stuff. And so all those nosy people that like to read about all that stuff, they would see it. And even then we would just say, you know what, it doesn't really matter, even if it is in the newspaper. You got to worry about your own business, not what other people think of you. And if people get all up in arms that you did it, well, they really aren't your friends anyway.
Right.
So don't worry about it.
All those nosy people that were scouring the newspapers are now scouring the internet.
Right.
Looking for that same type of information.
But it's not in the newspaper. It hasn't been in the newspaper for many, many years now, so you don't have to worry about that. Nobody takes the effort from any of the newspapers to actually go to the bankruptcy court and get the information and then put it in there, and they don't have room for it anymore. So there really is no worries about it being in the newspaper. Nobody's going to know about you filed bankruptcy unless you tell them.
All right, so take that off your
so
excuse
take it off your worries list.
Now, what about credit? And people are worried about their credit if they file bankruptcy. And that's the whole purpose of bankruptcy, isn't it?
So that you can pretty much clean up your bad credit and
Right.
start all over again, like a restart, and get it good again.
Right.
And so it's very common, probably every week, we talk to people, and when they're asking questions, they go, so I heard this from somewhere, that I'll never be able to get credit again. Well, that's not true. Or it'll take 10 years before I can ever get credit again. Or my friend filed bankruptcy years ago and they still can't get credit again. Well, I have to tell these people that's just completely not true. After you file bankruptcy, we've spoken many times about really how easy it is to get credit again. The day your bankruptcy is over, there's a multitude of car dealerships in the Des Moines metro that have financing available for people the day their case is over.
Just for you. Yeah.
So that's a pretty good way to get credit. Credit cards get offered to people pretty quickly after they file bankruptcy, much to my dismay. I don't think it should be that easy.
Right.
And frankly, to get a home loan after you file bankruptcy, I think for conventional loans, it's 3 years. That really isn't too long, considering one should be saving up money for a down payment and such anyway.
True.
And I'm aware of some programs, if they're still around, which they are because they haven't been around that long, I think through the government, through Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac, where after a year after bankruptcy, and I think a 630 credit score and 5% down, you can get a mortgage loan a year after bankruptcy.
How about that?
So yeah, it looks to me credit's pretty available, so needn't worry about how hard it is to get credit.
Okay, Michael, what about people that are worried about their jobs? If they say, if I file bankruptcy, it's going to mess my job up.
Yeah, again, that's a very common topic that people talk to me about. I've got realtors that are fearful that they won't be able to get a real estate license. I've got folks that got securities licenses and are afraid that they won't be able to renew their license because they're supposed to update those, and if somebody files for bankruptcy, they're supposed to make them aware of it. But you cannot, or you should not, ever be fired or denied licensing by any government entity because you file bankruptcy. There's a federal statute that prohibits discrimination by both the government employers and by private employers as far as terminating somebody with bankruptcy being the sole reason.
Okay.
So I explain that to people, and I think that kind of eases their mind. And I've been doing this a really long time, and I've not had any client who's ever come back to me expressing that I lost my job because I filed bankruptcy.
Okay.
And so after doing this for 3 decades, I would think if it would happen, I would have heard about it.
Right.
But people are scared. I mean, we have a lot of clients that work at employers in the financial industry in this town, be it Wells Fargo or the insurance companies like Principal and Nationwide, and people's finances are sometimes relevant, and credit checks are done. But your job's safe. Now you still have to do your job, so that doesn't guarantee just because you file bankruptcy you got a lifelong job. I mean, you still got to do it well so you don't get terminated for other reasons.
Right.
But that's a big one. So another issue we always hear is, well, if I do this, my parents will kill me. So I don't know if I can really do this, and so I got to go talk to them. And so we said, well, that's fine if you want to go talk to your parents, but you got $60,000 in credit cards, and unless they're like getting pretty wealthy themselves, if they're not going to cover this for you on your $20,000 a year job, maybe they need to be thinking about it in a realistic fashion.
Right.
And I'm not sure that they're so concerned about the kid doing the wrong thing. I think they're more worried about the embarrassment they might have if Junior files bankruptcy and people find out that my son filed bankruptcy.
What about the stigma that's attached to it?
Well, after all the years I've been doing it, I certainly feel that there's much, much less of a stigma than there had been in the past. And that might be because so many people have done bankruptcy. And when I first started doing this in the early 80s, I don't know that there were as many people filing bankruptcy, but the credit world exploded since the early 80s too. You know, in those days, we didn't see people walking around with the kind of debts that they do now. I mean, back then, if you had $20,000 in student loans, you know, that was a pretty good chunk of student loan debt.
Right.
Now we're seeing people with $200,000 and $300,000 of student loans. It's unfathomable.
Right.
And so times change, and credit just has become so more burgeoning. I mean, people walking around now, it's nothing for $60,000 and $70,000 of credit card debt.
That's where Michael Jenkins comes in to help you. You're not a bad person if you file bankruptcy. That's the bottom line. Get a hold of Jenkins Law Firm. He can walk you through this, can't you, Michael?
Yeah, you can give us a call at 255-1855. I'm happy to answer your questions on the phone. You can find us on the internet at www.iowa-bankruptcylaw.com, or you can follow us on Facebook.
All right. Michael Jenkins, great for shooting down some of these things that people think about filing
Tough
bankruptcy.
decision for people to make, I'm sure.
All right.